The Man in the Window. A true Halloween story. This happened to me back in 2016 when I was 16 years old. Halloween night, small town in Pennsylvania. I wasn't really into parties that year, so instead of going out, I stayed home to hand out candy with my mom. She went to bed around 10, but I decided to stay up later, watching horror movies and waiting for any stragglers. Around 11:30, I started hearing tapping sounds from outside. At first, I thought it was just tree branches hitting the window. It was windy, after all, but the tapping was rhythmic, too steady to be the wind. When I finally muted the TV, I realized it wasn't coming from the window at all. It was coming from the front porch. I went to peek through the side curtain, and there was a man just standing there, still facing the door. He wasn't wearing a costume, at least not one I could recognize. He had on a long gray coat, soaked from the rain, and one of those old plastic pumpkin candy buckets dangling from his hand. He wasn't saying anything, just standing. After a few seconds, I knocked on the glass and said, "Hey, we're done giving out candy." He didn't move. That's when I noticed something. The bucket he was holding wasn't orange. It looked dark, wet, heavy, and there was something else. The reflection from the porch light glinted off of what looked like a large kitchen knife tucked halfway behind his leg. I backed away slowly, my heart racing. I turned off the living room lights so he couldn't see in. When I peeked again, he was gone. I called my mom from upstairs, whispering that someone had been outside. We looked out the windows but saw nothing. We locked every door, and eventually, I fell asleep on the couch. The next morning, there were muddy footprints all over the porch. They led up to the front door, then around the side of the house, and just under my bedroom window, one single wet handprint. The police came, looked around, and told us several houses nearby had their motion lights triggered that night. One neighbor said she saw a man walking through her yard around midnight, holding what looked like a toy pumpkin. They never found him. But every Halloween since then, I can't relax when I hear footsteps outside, because I'll never forget that plastic bucket and how it dripped. The Man in the Window, Part 2. It's been a year since that Halloween when the man appeared on our porch. I thought maybe it was over, just some creepy stranger who vanished. But last October, around the same time, my mom mentioned she was cleaning out the garage. That's when she found a small black wet bag tucked in a corner. At first, she thought it was just garbage someone left during the fall. But then, she noticed the handle. It looked exactly like the bucket the man had carried that night. Curiosity got the better of her. She opened it. Inside were dozens of small carved pumpkins, but they weren't real pumpkins. They were fake, made of plastic, and every single one had a tiny handwritten note inside. I picked one up, and my stomach dropped. The note read, "I see you. Next year I'll come closer." The handwriting was jagged, uneven, almost like it had been scratched out in a hurry. Some of the other notes said things like, "Do you sleep with the lights on? I like to watch children who stay home. Your mother is beautiful." We showed the bag to the police. They couldn't trace it. No fingerprints, no DNA, nothing. That Halloween, I stayed in my room, windows locked, doors bolted. I barely slept. Every time I heard a tap, a brush against the siding, or a shadow outside my blinds, I imagined him standing there again, watching, waiting. To this day, every October, I double-check the porch, the garage, and even the neighbors' yards. I know he could come back, and somehow, I know he always will. Some nights, I hear the softest tapping on my window. Not the wind, not the trees, just soft, rhythmic tapping. And I wonder if this year, the bucket will finally come inside. The Man in the Window, Part 3, the final Halloween. It was Halloween again. 3 years had passed since the first time. Every October, I'd check the doors, windows, even the garage. But nothing ever happened. Until this year, I was alone. Mom was working late. My little brother was at a friend's house. I had all the lights off, trying to convince myself that the man was just a story, something I imagined. Around 11:45 p.m., I heard it tapping, soft, precise, from the front window. My heart froze. I grabbed a flashlight and slowly lifted the curtain. He was there, standing in the exact same spot as the first year. Gray coat, pumpkin bucket, staring directly at me. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't move. He lifted the bucket slightly. This time it wasn't wet, but I could see inside. It was full of notes, hundreds of them, folded small, all in that same jagged handwriting. But one note was different, bigger, thicker, and it had my name on it. I froze. The man slowly started walking around the porch, holding the bucket toward the front door, shaking it as if it were a bell. The notes rattled like bones. I ran to the door, slammed it, locked it. But then I heard it. Scratching. Not at the door. Not outside. Somewhere. Inside. I realized with a cold shock, he hadn't left the property. The windows were all locked. The doors bolted. But the scratching was coming from the basement. I crept down the stairs. The basement light flickered. The bucket was there, on the floor, empty. But around it were hundreds of folded notes, and a single, wet handprint on the wall at eye level. I never opened the note with my name on it. I left the house, called the police, and didn't go back that night. When they came, they found no signs of forced entry, no footprints, only the notes, folded neatly on the basement floor. I moved houses shortly after. Halloween comes every year, and every year, I still hear soft, rhythmic tapping on my window, always around midnight. I've never opened my door for trick-or-treaters since, because deep down, I know he's still watching. And someday that bucket will return, and I've never opened my door for trick-or-treaters again. Every Halloween, I still hear soft, rhythmic tapping on my window around midnight, and I know, deep down, that someday that bucket will return. If you enjoyed hearing this story, don't forget to like. It really helps me know you want more true, scary stories. Share this with someone brave enough to hear it. And if you haven't already, subscribe and hit the bell. Because every week I share real, terrifying experiences that people have sent in from all over the world. Remember, some things are watching you, and some things never leave.